So with the last chance qualifier, the top 2 drivers are going to be moving on to the final, while the other 2 are out. Cooper unsurprisingly takes pole with a staggering 1:29.2, followed by Jake over 1 second behind in the Nissan. Neither Gary nor Derek managed to get a lap time in, but Gary will take 3rd and Derek will take 4th. We're joined by Gordon Wallace in this coverage. Gordon, who do you think has the best chance of going into the final?
I hate to say it, Jackson, but I think Cooper and Jake will be the 2 moving on to the final. Gary and Derek have put on a good show and shown some good talent, but these IMSA GTO cars just aren't friendly for learners.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with that. I don't think I could have said it better. Your first step into motorsports probably shouldn't be a 500 horsepower rear-wheel drive race car from the 80s. It was just kind of bad luck in that sense for Gary and Derek, you know. Like you said, they've shown talent. I hope that they come back in a car that suits them a little bit better. But they aren't out of this yet. They have a race to drive. Cooper cuts the beam and the race is underway. Puffs of black smoke flying out of everyone's exhaust as they run through the gears, spitting flames on their way through turn 1. No overtaking into turn 1, but Derek has the inside line on Gary. But I'm not sure that's what you want. Gary might have just been going for the late apex to get a better exit, and it looks like that was successful. Still, in the same order as they started in, it really is now going to be a game of consistency for everyone here. All 4 of them have made massive mistakes in this tournament so far. There's no saying that it won't happen again, but there is a huge gap in absolutely everyone's pace.
Everyone's in their own bubble of pace right now. There's not really any sort of overtaking opportunities. The closest gap seems to be between Cooper and Jake, and that's over a second. And that's been developed in under half a lap.
Yeah, I think your prediction might be correct here. Even if Cooper or Jake made a mistake, they could pretty easily get around Derek or Gary, and that's a big off for Gary. That's very deep into the gravel trap.
He must have been going incredibly fast out there. That's all the way to the tire wall on what looks like over halfway through the corner.
These cars are just so heavy. They go like hell and they don't stop. Sometimes I swear the brakes are made out of paper plates. Like, these things just have a mind of their own. They do not listen. Even Cooper has struggled to maintain control of it. But so far on lap 1, it's been pretty stable. And he's also got the pace to keep building massive gaps. He's coming over to the line to start the second lap, and it's over 2 seconds now. That's just unbelievable how well he's had this car figured out. Gary seems to be going slow through this section. I believe it's because the crest. So pretty much if you're all the way on the throttle or all the way on the brake, you're going to go around in the crest because it's sort of off camber and angled, and the car just wants to lift up. Oh, that's another big spin for Gary. He's obviously struggling with the Mustang here.
Yeah, he was in the Audi before, and the jump to Audi, the Mustang, is such a big one. I would have recommended that he went to the Nissan instead because it's a lot more stable.
Oh, absolutely, it's more stable. I think Jake made the good choice of going from the Audi to the 300ZX. It might not have the pace of the Mustang, but you could be a lot more consistent and confident in that car. And it's no slouch either. It's not like it's a massive time loss to the Mustang. But a lot of people were banking on that Audi being good, and it makes sense. It's the only all-wheel drive car. It's very stable. It has a big turbo, which means that you can get on the power very early. And you would expect it to still be crazy fast down the straights once the boost kicks in. But because of the way it's geared and how long this track is, it never really reaches boost. So while I would say it's more stable, it demands a new kind of precision to make it go fast. You kind of have to slide it around the corners, sort of four-wheel drift on the throttle to have any hope of the turbo kicking in. Jake seems to have gotten into his groove a little bit. That gap was significantly smaller well, not smaller, you know what I mean. It grew at a smaller rate.
Yes, it was 2 last lap, and now it's 2.7, so that's definitely a step in the right direction for Jake.
My question is, what about the Mustang makes it that much faster than the 300Z? Why is it faster? Where is it faster? Because I've driven both of the cars, and I'd argue that the 300Z is the better pick because their pace is about the same, but the 300Z is so much more stable than the Mustang. I'm really curious as to where the Mustang is faster and whether or not that's the car or the driver. Because I would never have expected a gap between Cooper and Jake to be this big.
I think it's as simple as Cooper just has this car nailed down. if you pay attention to everyone else's corner
Ooh,
exits,
yeah, big
ooh,
one.
that's a
It
huge off from Derek.
looked like a lockup because of the marks that were left behind. It just went straight on into the barrier there.
Yeah, it might have been there. Could have been a front lockup. But as I was saying, if you look at the exits from Cooper, the car doesn't twitch, the car doesn't slide, the car is planted. If you look at everyone else's exits, it's either a little bit twitchy or slidey. I think that's where he's making all this time, is the back will not step out on Cooper.
You don't see that much twitching from the 300ZX though, so is that car really just a second faster?
It's naturally aspirated, so it could have a little bit more oomph at the corners, I suppose.
And Derek proving that just because I said so, it doesn't mean that the 300ZX is incredibly planted. That was definitely a twitch on the exit there.
It makes me feel a little bit bad for Gary and Derek because they've been thrown into the last chance qualifier with Cooper and Jake, who are both very consistent and always in the final and always the top drivers. Not only that, but they have to drive 500, 600 horsepower, 1980s cars with no traction control, that weigh a million pounds, like you said.
Yeah, but that's just how racing is. You can't really win them all, especially if you simply don't have the practice and experience that these guys do. It takes a little while to develop these skills. It's not necessarily a bad thing that you're being beaten by these two. But I do see what you're saying. This is a properly difficult situation that they've been put in. I actually want to see Cooper's drive through there. It's a little bit twitchy, but nowhere near as twitchy as I would have expected going over the crest.
Whoa,
oh, big cloud of smoke. That's Gary off. Gary's spun out and he's been lapped by Cooper and also Jake. That pretty much happened right in front of him as well. That was a pretty good dodge from Cooper. But it just takes so much to even think about having these cars stay on the track for one lap. It's not exactly surprising to see someone who isn't a regular come in and not be able to be consistent, but it is kind of a shame to see. For example, if these guys were in the Pragas, they could do so much better, I bet. That car's just so much easier to drive than any of these. Even the Audi. I'd say the Praga's even more planted than the Audi.
Yeah, I'd have to agree on that. I'd definitely say so. That Praga it didn't have that as much horsepower as these cars. But it was rear-wheel drive, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was still rear-wheel drive.
It did have 200 less horsepower or whatever, but that car just has so much more, it shows how much race car development has come over these decades. There's more aero, there's more mechanical grip.
It doesn't sound as good as these.
Oh, it's not even close. That's a given.
But those Pragas were really good to drive. Oh, that's a sizable off. Another lockup potentially for Gary. I don't think I would have said this, but when it comes to the last chance qualifier, you definitely don't want the slowest car. But I think that the Audi would have been the best bet for Gary. I mean, the difference between the Audi and the Mustang, the all-wheel drives and the rear-wheel drives, is jarring. It is a completely different world. You can't just immediately adapt to it, even if you have hundreds of hours on these cars. So the good things about the Audi is it's the most stable and it also sounds the best.
No, I think that the Mustang sounds the best.
No, Audi's better. Audi's a lot better. When it comes to big V8s, the Mustang doesn't sound that bad, but the Audi has a little turbo inline 4 that sounds like something absolutely out of this world.
I still think the Mustang sounds the best, and it's the fastest, so it doesn't even really matter.
Well, it's the fastest in here.
It's always been the fastest. It's been the fastest since Heat Race 2.
You're not wrong there. There's definitely something very special about this Mustang. There goes Gary off again. It is hard to drive though, there's no denying that.
Yeah, it's completely insane how difficult these are to drive.
There's just under 2 minutes left now, and it looks like it is going to be complete and utter domination from Cooper. Jake has done well to keep the car on the track, but he just cannot match the pace. I don't think anyone will be able to whatsoever. A 29.2 is simply mind-blowing. I'd be surprised if anyone can get any lower than that. Heck, I'd be surprised if someone could get 3/10 within that. A 129.5 in and of itself seems near impossible. But Cooper has gone 3/10 faster than that.
Yeah, he's always been fast. He's been waiting a long time for his first. I think this might be it. There's just no one that can match Cooper in this entire tournament.
Oh, Jake's had a huge lockup.
And that looks like he was coming out of the crest, and he might have gotten the car locked up when the wheels weren't under load. We cut back to see Cooper lapping Derek, a very clean pass there. Good work from the both of them.
I mean, that's just textbook curse of the commentator. We were just saying how Jake managed to keep the car on the track this whole time.
Yeah, that is a shame, but I don't think it will have mattered. I think that he was going to be P2, whether he kept it on the track or not. And that's definitely one of the most understandable places to have that kind of a crash. That is definitely where this car becomes unsold the most. And a lot of drivers probably won't be expecting it, because you are going straight in that section of the track. It's the elevation change that just gets rid of all the load on the tires, so you have no grip. It essentially turns the car into an airplane, quite literally. The car comes up off the ground, and there's a little bit of bad camber as well, so what little load there is still on the tires is now being affected by a little bit of twisting, and that will just throw the car out sideways. We can see it through here, I reckon. If you look very closely, you can see that the crest is off camber and that Cooper does have a lift. But if that section of the track was perfectly flat, you'd have the foot to the floor. Even though you're coming out of a corner, it's a pretty high speed corner. Even though there's a corner coming up, you'd still have a lot more time on the throttle there. But because of the nature of that elevation change, you just can't floor it through there.
So I guess my prediction was right, and Cooper's gonna win this tournament then.
Yeah, it would seem so. He's rounding the final corner now, and he's got an absolute flyer of a lap time in, cuts the beam, and the race is over. Cooper comes first place, followed by Jake, and Derek will finish ahead of Gary. Well, everyone else is just going to be looking at that lap time and thinking it's game over. That just seems simply unbeatable. Pace like that in a car like this consistently truly takes some next level skill.
And that is just unbelievable. There is nobody close to Cooper right now.
Nowhere near. Nowhere. Only, I think, one or two other people have even gotten close to the 129s. We're talking 129.8s, 129.9s. Cooper's done a 129.2. But anyways, it will be Jake and Cooper moving on to the finals. I think we've got a pretty good idea of who's going to take it, but we've said that before, and we've been wrong. We'll see you there.